All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the show. It's been a little while since I've made a video. It's been a while since we've dropped a podcast. My son was born about a month ago, so it's been a little bit more hectic than normal, but I'm excited to get back to bring you guys a little bit more information. Today on the list, I'm actually going to talk about a couple of things. The first thing is I have here my Axial RBX10 Ryft. And if you notice, it looks a little different. What I've done is this is the orange cage, and I actually have just painted it white. I took about, 10 coats of white to get rid of the orange, and I'll definitely tell you that it doesn't take a very fine eye to find some of the orange still coming through. It's not necessarily the biggest deal to me, but I wanted to run through some things that I did after the fact because in working with Axial during some of this development for this machine, part of my deal was I had to keep it stock, and for the most part it's stock still, but I wanted to just show you guys some of the things that I've been waiting to do now that everything is released and it's a little bit more have a little bit more flexibility. Obviously, the first thing is painting the cage. I was really undecided with the orange. Orange is actually my favorite color, and just started seeing that everyone was running the orange setup. So I decided to do something a little different. So I went ahead and painted it white, like I said. But one of the things I did was I painted the panels a nice red color as well. And this red, when it's on there, it really pops and makes this thing, see if I can get a nice look here for you. It makes it look really nice. I'm a little torn between panels or no panels, and you'll see that I actually recolored my wheels here a little bit. So a little bit something different. I've seen a couple people do red and white, but I think it's cool. I'll probably run it with panels because I don't want this system in here to get too dirty. Now, paint, panels, all that's fun stuff, but I have three things that I've done here really for performance. I haven't gotten a chance to test yet. I'm really excited to get out and do it. So let's talk about Sway Bar first, because that's one of the most talked about topics right now with the Ryft. So this is actually the Axial Sway Bar from Axial. Because we worked with them a little bit early in production, I did get the chance to get one early. I haven't had it out per se on the hills or anything like that, but I can tell you that I had fabbed up one that went through the fuel cell, and it was an old Yeti ready to run bar. This one is much more firm. Now I could show you just the actual sway bar itself, which is right here. It's significantly thicker. The diameter's much higher. It's a thicker bar. So the reason that Axial did not include the sway bar with the ready to run kit, when I talked to him, I told him I voiced pretty openly that it was very important to have a sway bar with this car, and I really wish they would have done it with the ready to run. However, they could not get the tuning right, couldn't get the kinks worked out, couldn't get it finely tuned. So they waited to release it. It's an option part now, so I think that is a TBD whenever that'll come out. So I'm going to give that a try. I think it's going to be too firm, so I'll probably have to go to something aftermarket, but I'll let you guys know whenever I get a chance to actually get out and run it. It's been really wet here. I'm not a big fan of running these things in like really tacky mud because it just bogs everything down. It's a nightmare to clean, so trying to avoid that. Another thing that I've done is I'm still running my Axial aftermarket springs here. Now if you see, it's the overall ride height of this car has been substantially lowered. I've actually raised the preload on here substantially, so the ride height in the rear is pretty low, which also means that up travel in the rear is pretty low. But I can definitely show you that down travel is going to be really cool, really big name of the game. Some of the performance stuff that I found was just that the front end in this car was too high. That was my biggest complaint when I was running it. Is it manageable? Is it fine? Does it work? Yeah, absolutely. But for that super high performance upper echelon, you're really going to want that front end to come down some. So I moved to actually stock Ryft shocks up front. Now, right at ride height, let's see if I can get it to sit here for you. At ride height, that's what it looks like right there. It's way lower, absolutely way lower. I have a decent amount of up travel still in here. You'll see that the chassis is actually making a little bit of contact right here on top of that servo bar, or not that servo bar, but the servo housing. Still a decent amount of down travel there as well. So not as much as stock, but I think it's enough. And I think it'll actually work out a little bit better than what was there. Now, here comes the bad part. To make this short shock system work, I actually had to cut a large portion of the battery tray out. Now, you guys that are running, you know, big 5,000 milliamp batteries, things like that, just a massive bricks that you can run in this car, you're not going to be able to do that anymore if you do what I chose to do to get the suspension a little lower. Now, it's kind of an ugly cut that I did here, but I really wanted a proof of concept just to make sure. So I'll come back and clean this up a little bit, make it a little bit more polished. But for the purpose, this actually works really well. Now, if you'll see, this particular piece right here is actually not attached to the frame anymore. That's something, hindsight, probably should have kept that piece there, but that's actually what was making contact with the frame. If you see, this piece actually can come out a little more, and we can actually get just a touch more travel up here. But I really think that up travel into the chassis is where you're going to get a lot of that performance gain. So what I did was I just cut this out. Now, if you're not familiar, I don't run big batteries all the time. I just don't ever really have the chance to run for 30, 45 minutes at a time. I normally do 15, 20 minute stints, and then something happens. So what I do is I'm actually going to run the battery from side to side here. And because the way the shock towers are and the fact that it has a lid, the battery doesn't move hardly at all. So interesting upgrade if you're looking to get the center of gravity lower all the way around. I mean, this truck is awesome in terms of where it's sitting right now. You can see the rear end still has a tremendous amount. It's still very tunable in the back here, and the front end will give you enough travel. And I'm using that word very conservatively because I really do think that it is plenty, but it'll definitely give you enough travel in the front to tune it, to do whatever you want. These are not the shocks that'll stay in this car. They're just what I had. I wanted to get an idea of the length, so I went with those. But let's talk about the bad for a second. The axle brakes that I've seen everyone having issues with. The axle in this car is broken. So I looked after running it for a while, and let's see if I can get it on camera here. It's not fully broken. Let's see if I can get the lighting just right here. I don't think you'll be able to see it. The camera probably won't be able to pick it up. But right here on the back side right there is a fracture in the axle. So what I'm actually going to do is pull the whole front end out. I've got a new axle from Axial. Now, I'll say this too, and I'm not sure if this is exactly the best thing for me to say, but there is no version 2 of the axle that I'm aware of. I feel like I would have been made aware of that by now. So any of the replacement parts or things like that you're going to be getting, they're going to be the same axle. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to JB Weld and kind of put a metal truss into that piece there. I'm going to fab something up where it looks nice, polish it, make it look like it's smoothed off plastic. But I'll be using a pretty liberal amount of JB Weld. I know that there's some guys out there using beef tubes, but all in all, axle housings are really cheap for this, so it's something to try. It's probably not going to be the best solution or the end-all solution, but like I said, something to do, something to try. I have finally fallen victim to the broken axle, so that's pretty much it. I will say I am trying one more thing as well in the rear end. I'm not sure if you can get a good look at it here, if I can get it in the light just right. But on the axle side, so where your trailing arms mount, there's actually a lower link. I'm trying to get the best angle here, right? This might not work the way I want it to. That might be the best look for you. So from the factory, this is where your trailing arm actually mounts, and there's an upper position for the sway bar link. I've actually moved my trailing arms up to that upper length just to get a little bit more clearance, not a ton. And, you know, obviously that affects the pinion angle. If you can see the pinion angle there, it's a little sharp, but that's actually not my ride height. Ride height for me actually makes this pretty parallel. So, you know, right at, see if I can get you a good look there. Right at ride height, I got a little bit of pinion angle that's not the best, but, you know, as it compresses all the way up, straightens completely out, and as it comes back down, it does get a little bit more severe. We'll see how it goes. And I'll tell you this too, I'm still open in the middle, open in the rear, and open in the front. I have a locker from Axial. I'm actually going to put it just in the front. I'm going to do something a little different, something I hadn't seen yet. I'm a big believer that you should focus on pulling rather than pushing in a four-wheel drive system. So we're going to lock the front end up, keep the middle open, and keep the rear end open. I'll let you know how it goes. Just something to think about, something to try. So if you're not following us, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, do all that kind of fun stuff for us, because it really does help the channel out. And I'll see you next time. Also, let me know what you think about the Ryft. Is it good, bad? Do you hate it? Do you love it? And we'll talk about it. Have a good one, everybody.